"Get that animal out of here now." The voice was sharp, loud, followed by clapping hands and sharp stomps against the marble floor, as if chasing away a stray. The golden lab flinched, ears dropping. His harness trembled. The old man beside him didn't move. One hand held the leather handle with practiced ease, the other resting lightly on the dog's head. He couldn't see the man who spoke, but he felt the heat of humiliation. "This is a formal event," the suited man muttered to the cameras, "not a kennel for broken veterans." And the crowd? Silent, frozen. Not one person stepped forward, not even the principal, who'd shaken his hand minutes earlier. "If you believe no veteran should be treated like this, or see a service dog chased like a pest, type respect below." The man's name was Samuel R. West, 74, retired staff sergeant. Completely blind since 1983, after an IED took not just his sight but 4 men under his command. He never asked for pity, only precision. His walk was measured, his voice low. He spoke the way soldiers pray, carefully, quietly, never forgetting what each word cost. Sam lived alone, in a small second-floor apartment above an auto garage. His closest companion for the last 8 years had 4 legs, amber eyes, and a name stitched in gold onto a black harness: Ranger. Ranger wasn't just a service dog, he was a gift. Sent by Sam's former unit when his first guide dog passed, a new partner trained by Marines, delivered with a handwritten note that said, "He's one of ours. Trust him, like you trusted us." And Sam did. Every day. That morning, he had received an invitation, a folded letter from the local school board addressed formally. "We would be honored if you'd represent our community's veterans at this year's Memorial Assembly." Signed by the principal, a woman he'd spoken to once before. Respectful, grateful. At least she seemed that way. Ranger had sensed his excitement, nudging him gently when Sam read the letter aloud. It had been a while since anyone asked him to speak. He spent the night before polishing his boots by feel, brushing Ranger's coat, folding the flag he kept in a glass frame. It had once flown above his outpost in Kandahar. It was faded, but to Sam it was perfect. Now they stood at the school's main entrance, doors glass and steel, flags fluttering in the cold breeze. Parents mingled, children whispering rehearsed lines. A photographer snapping pictures of officials with plastic smiles. Sam waited calmly in line to be signed in. Ranger sat beside him, ears perked. That's when it started. A sharp voice, male, cut through the morning chatter. "Who let a dog into the VIP corridor?" Sam turned slightly. He knew the tone. Not confusion, contempt. A moment later, someone stepped in front of him. "Sir," the man said, his words clipped, "you'll need to move aside. That animal's making people uncomfortable." "I was invited," Sam replied, steady. "I'm the veteran speaker." There was a beat of silence. Then came a scoff. "The invitation didn't mention animals. You'll need to wait over there." The man pointed to a shaded area off to the side. A bench, partially blocked by a decorative hedge. Sam didn't argue. He only gave a quiet command to Ranger. The dog moved first, guiding him calmly despite the tension in the leash. As they passed, another voice, younger, sharper, muttered from behind. "Maybe leave the mutt next time. We're trying to inspire, not depress the kids." Nobody laughed, but nobody stopped it either. 3 teachers heard it. 1 school board member turned away. Sam sat on the bench, folded the flag across his lap, and placed a hand on Ranger's back. The dog trembled. Just slightly, and still Sam said nothing. The ceremony had not yet begun, but the message was clear. Stay out of sight. Sam remained on the bench, shadowed by hedges and half hidden behind a promotional banner for the event, honoring those who served. He couldn't see it, but Ranger's ears twitched every time someone walked past without slowing down. Every voice that dropped into a whisper, every stifled laugh, every phone raised for a picture that cut him out of frame. From the stage, preparations continued. A podium was tested, microphones clicked on. The principal rehearsed her notes with the school counselor beside her, both of them passing near Sam without a single word. She had invited him. Now she wouldn't even acknowledge him. Then came the press. A local news anchor arrived with a cameraman and began filming introductions with the mayor's assistant. As they panned across the guests, one of the event organizers, a tall man in a navy scarf, polished shoes, and a self-important voice, stepped forward. "Don't get the old guy and his dog," he said quietly, but not quietly enough. "Not a good look. It'll confuse the message." The cameraman hesitated, then panned away. Sam adjusted his posture, lifting his chin. He couldn't see the rejection, but he could feel it. It clung to the air like smoke. Then came the anthem. A student began to sing from the front steps. The music swelled. People placed hands over hearts. Sam stood. Ranger rose with him, perfectly aligned as they had practiced thousands of times. But just as the first verse echoed across the courtyard, someone moved toward them, hurried, annoyed. It was the same organizer. He hissed under his breath, "Down. Sit down. You're blocking the visual." Sam didn't respond. But Ranger, sensing tension, took a half step forward. The man clapped his hands loudly, startling the dog. Then, in a motion masked by the music, he stepped close and stomped near Ranger's paws. The lab recoiled, whimpered softly. Sam's grip on the harness tightened, not to lash out, just to keep balance. He whispered 2 words, "Steady, boy." The anthem ended. There was applause, but not for him. A new speaker was introduced, the mayor's assistant. He delivered a pre-written statement about community and the debt owed to heroes. The crowd clapped. A few parents took selfies. Sam remained standing. No one called his name. When the program moved on without him, he slowly lowered himself back onto the bench. He folded the flag again, smoothing its creases by feel. Ranger leaned against his leg, eyes searching for safety in a sea of dismissal. Behind them, a teenage girl snapped a photo. Her friend whispered, "Is that even a real service dog?" The girl shrugged. No idea, maybe just his emotional support mutt. They giggled and walked away. Still, no one intervened. No teacher, no official, no veteran in the audience, though there were at least 2, wearing pins that caught the morning light. Ranger's breathing was shallow now. And so was Sam's. Not from anger, but from a weight that had returned, one he'd carried before in another life. He lowered his head, rested his hand over the dog's back, and waited. Sam didn't move for several minutes. He sat with his hands folded over the worn triangle of the flag in his lap. Ranger lay at his feet, alert but tense. His body curled slightly, his eyes trained on every sudden movement in the crowd. It would have been easy to leave. He had done it before, walked away from places that smiled in public and spit in private. But something about this moment, about this flag, this dog, this place that had once asked him to stand, told him, "Stay." He reached slowly into the breast pocket of his faded overcoat and retrieved a small black phone. It was old, flip style, military issue. The screen cracked slightly in the corner, but one number still sat at the top of the speed dial list. He pressed and held it with his thumb. No hesitation. A soft click, then a voice answered on the first ring. "Command liaison." "Name and ID?" Sam didn't raise his voice, didn't change his tone. "Staff Sergeant Samuel West. Retired. ID Bravo 1765. The woman on the line paused. Then, "Go ahead, Sergeant." "Need a presence," he said simply. "Location, Westwood High School. Veterans Day Assembly. Ceremony compromised. Dignity breached. Reaffirmation requested." Another pause. Then the voice replied, "Affirmative. Message relayed. Stand by." The call ended without fanfare. Sam closed the phone, slipped it back into his coat, and exhaled. No one around him had heard a thing. The applause from a student poem covered his quiet exchange. But Ranger knew. The dog lifted his head slightly, looked up at him. Sam leaned down, his hand gently brushing over Ranger's ears. "You did good, soldier," he whispered. The dog's tail thumped once against the ground. Just once. Then Sam reached into a side pouch on the harness and pulled out a small patch. It was cloth, frayed at the edges. a stitched insignia from his old unit, the kind only passed hand to hand. He pinned it gently onto Ranger's harness just beneath the gold-stitched name, a symbol, not for show, not for them, for the ones who would know what it meant. He adjusted his collar, sat upright again, eyes forward, even if he couldn't see, back straight, and then he waited. The program continued without pause. The crowd continued to look past him, but something had shifted. He hadn't spoken a word. And yet the next act had already begun, quiet, invisible, and unmistakable. Justice doesn't always shout. Sometimes it arrives in silence, on the heels of restraint. 12 minutes later, the doors at the far end of the gym opened with a slow, echoing creak. No announcement, no fanfare. Just the sound of leather soles striking polished floor, sharp, steady, unhurried. At first, no one turned. But then the whispers began. A uniform, dress blues, shoulder boards heavy with rank. A chest full of ribbons, Navy Cross, Silver Star, multiple campaign medals. And a gaze that made people stand straighter without understanding why. The man walking through the gym's center aisle was General Wyatt, retired. Once commander of the 7th Marine Regiment, now standing, without invitation, inside a public high school auditorium. He said nothing as he walked past rows of folding chairs and stiff postures. Eyes searched for explanation. Phones began to rise, but then he stopped, right in front of the side bench. Sam West didn't turn toward him. He couldn't. But Ranger did, tail wagging gently. The general removed his white gloves, placed them under one arm, and saluted. The gym fell utterly silent. Staff Sergeant Samuel West, Wyatt said, his voice a calm resonance. You stood when others fell. You spoke when others wouldn't, and today you were asked to sit in the shadows. Sam didn't speak, but he lifted his chin, just slightly. Wyatt turned to face the crowd, scanning it slowly, deliberately. To those who organized this ceremony, he continued, you invited a Marine, a veteran who lost his sight in defense of the very freedoms we claim to honor. You asked for his presence but rejected his service animal, an extension of his vision and his dignity. He took a breath, deep, controlled, then pointed to the podium. And yet there stands a microphone that should have carried his voice. No one moved, not the principal, not the school board, not the assistant mayor, now visibly sweating beneath stage lights. Wyatt turned again, facing Sam. Sergeant West, he said, loud enough for every student, every guest, every reporter to hear. On behalf of the men who followed you, the men you lost, and those of us who still walk because you stood first, I invite you to speak. He extended his hand. Sam stood. No flourish, no drama, just calm, upright presence. He took the general's arm, nodded once, and gave Ranger the quiet command, forward. Together they walked toward the stage, past rows of people who couldn't meet his face, past teachers who looked away, past students whose laughter had long faded. Wyatt escorted him to the podium, stepped back. Sam placed the flag on the podium, then rested both hands on either side of it. Ranger sat beside him, motionless, proud. Sam said nothing at first. The silence held. And then, I didn't come here for applause, he began. I came to show what service looks like, even when no one's watching. He paused. Let the weight of that sit. And it did, because every eye was now watching. If you believe true leadership means standing up for the silenced, subscribe now and join the voices that still honor what matters. When Sam finished speaking, there was no applause. Not yet. Just stillness. A quiet so complete it seemed to pull the light out of the room. And in that silence, something settled, heavy and necessary. Then, slowly, a sound emerged. Not from the crowd, but from the side entrance. The principal stepped forward. Her eyes were glassy. The stack of prepared notes trembled in her hand. She didn't speak into the microphone. She spoke directly to Sam. I'm sorry, she said. We didn't see you. Sam nodded once. Wyatt stood beside him, arms behind his back, then turned to address the students. There's a tradition, the general said, in some Marine units. When a brother falls, we don't ask what he did to deserve it. We ask what we can do to honor him next. He gestured to Ranger. This dog didn't just serve, he still serves, as does the man beside him. And honor starts with recognition. From behind the podium, the school counselor quietly placed something into Sam's hands. It was a certificate, thick paper, embossed with the school seal. But Sam couldn't see it. So she spoke. This certifies that Ranger is, from this day forward, recognized as the official honorary guardian of Westwood High, and that his presence here, and everywhere, is not just permitted, but welcomed. A small tag was added to Ranger's harness, a gold medallion engraved with the school crest and the words, "Honor is not invisible." Sam knelt slowly, clipped the tag onto Ranger's gear, ran his hand along the dog's neck with the reverence of a folded flag, then stood again, and the crowd finally rose, not in cheers, but in silence. Every student, every teacher, every parent. Even the mayor's assistant, still red-faced, stood without being told. The general turned toward the back of the room where a large banner had been hung for the ceremony. It read, "Thank you for your service." He walked up to it, removed a folded piece of cloth from his inner coat pocket, unfurled it. It was a service patch, the same worn emblem Sam had pinned onto Ranger's harness earlier that morning. Without ceremony, without a word, Wyatt pinned the patch to the center of the banner, then stepped aside. People took photos, not for social media, but to remember, to bear witness. As the ceremony came to a close, Wyatt escorted Sam and Ranger through the same door they had entered. Outside, sunlight hit the steps. Ranger paused, then looked back, just once, and in that simple turn of the head, something unspoken passed through the crowd. They saw it. They finally saw him. If you stood with Ranger when they tried to chase him away, if you felt the weight of silence when a leader finally spoke up, then subscribe, leave a word of respect in the comments, and we'll see you in the next story.